All right. Give me just a second to pull up our YouTube channel so I can see all your fantastic comments. Bear with me. Do you want to monetize this? We're really bad at that. We're very, very, very bad at monetizing what we do. It's okay, though. All right, I got the link. I will share that with everybody to come join us. Hey, Steve. Glad you could join me. Thank you. 5 thumbs up. I haven't done anything. You people rock. I love it. I really appreciate it. All right, let's jump into it. The news of the day: Georgia loses 5-star defensive tackle Bear Alexander, and I know that shocked a lot of people. He's been telling us that he lives and dies for the Dogs. He's been recruiting for the Dogs. We've had people that know Bear Alexander telling us, people who are around him all the time, saying he's changed his phone number to avoid these other coaches. He's done everything possible to make sure that he's in the fold for Georgia. He's working for them. He's not entertaining these other ideas. His coaches, people close to him, say any other team's going to have a very hard time getting Bear Alexander away from Georgia. I think he recently gave a interview where he said he bleeds red and black. And a few days later, he's decommitted. Now, I do want to say this. The guy wants to take visits. And you notice he just announced he's taking a visit to Southern Cal. If you're at Southern Cal and you have 54, 56 official visits available to you, like any other team, and you get 250 kids saying, yeah, I'd like to come to USC on an official visit. Can you buy my plane ticket and send a limo to pick me up and pay for my meals? Well, what can we do while we're out there? Where can we go? You become a little jaded, a little suspicious. So you basically, if you're USC, you're like, wait a minute, you're telling everybody you bleed red and black. Why should we give you one of our 56 official visit spots? If you're at Texas A&M, that's a different story. But if you're any of these other schools, look, you're telling everybody how much you're recruiting for Georgia, how much you love Georgia. Why should we give you a spot? We stand no chance of getting you. There's impossible. We're not going to waste one of our spots on you. Even though you are a 5-star defensive tackle and we'd love to have you. And no, we're just not going to do it. So all of a sudden, if you want to take all these official visits, it seems the easiest way is to say, look, I'm decommitting. I'm still very high on Georgia. I still talk to Trey Scott every day, but I'm not committed. If you're an uncommitted prospect, it's a lot easier to get a official visit and to have these coaches come after you. Now, it's kind of a pain in the ass because these coaches come after you and every coach comes after you. But, he said a lot of things have changed in the college landscape since, I made my commitment. Yeah. He's actually able to go out and do visits now, and he wants to see these schools. And that was the problem with an early visit. And a lot of people said, well, look, the minute he picked Georgia, everyone that I knew that's big in the recruiting game, the insiders, the coaches, the handlers, the scouts, the analysts, the people at Rival said, look, this is a kid who could definitely go to Texas A&M. It's going to be tough to pull him out of Texas. Texas itself maybe is not that big a draw, but Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, who went and hired Nick Williams. Now, a lot of people's like, who the hell is Nick Williams? Now, Nick Williams was a former Georgia player. He got a job with Kirby Smart because he's from Bainbridge. Kirby got him into the system. From what I understand, did him a favor and gave him a shot to join the Georgia staff. And he comes on as an analyst and then moves over into recruiting. But he was one of Bear Alexander's top contacts at Georgia. Now, here's the thing. Not every kid who's being recruited calls Kirby Smart every day and talks to him. They will talk to position coaches. They will talk to analysts. They will talk to graduate assistants. They will talk to people involved in the program who are not always their position coach or the head coach. We hear a lot about Eddie Gordon. We hear a lot about Nick Williams, Jonas Jennings. I remember every offensive lineman would say, I love DJ Looney. I'm like, what about Sam Pittman? Oh, yeah, he's nice too. DJ Looney, God rest his soul. Hell of a recruiter for UGA. Some of these guys, Molly Van Gorder, that they are the ones who talk these kids a lot. So Nick Williams goes out to Texas A&M, is offered a job out there. I don't think he told anybody he was going when he got the job offer. That did not go over well at Butts-Mehre. But Nick Williams gets is hired by Texas A&M, and he has a great contact. He was texting about or tweeting. Excuse me, old man here trying to remember the verb for Instagram. Instagramming. He was posting to Instagram very late at night, some while back, about how these adults are lying to kids, and he was hitting up Bear repeatedly on Instagram, which, perfectly legal, perfectly normal. That's not uncommon. So you have a situation where Nick Williams is kind of one of the point guys, although Trey Scott is a much bigger one. And yeah, a kid's not going to make a decision on where to go to school based on a graduate assistant or a recruiting assistant, but it does smooth the process, if you will. If you have somebody that you really liked at Georgia, and now he's at Texas A&M, and you take an official visit there, and you're like, wow, this is great. I may have pulled the trigger a little too early. I'm just going to let me go back to zero. Let me reset back to zero, and I will start from there. I can still commit to Georgia. I can still commit to Texas A&M. I can still commit to USC, commit to any of these schools, but I want to reset because now I can actually go out and visit. So I tell Georgia fans about this every time when you're dealing with recruiting. If a kid doesn't pick your school, take a lesson from Kirby Smart. Don't be an ass. Don't call him names. Don't say he's scared of competition. Don't say some stupid crap to get the kid that the recruitniks at that school will copy your images and copy your quotes and send them to the kid. Oh, see, why the hell were you going to go there? These fans hate your guts. So don't do anything stupid. A decommitment, especially with the transfer portal and COVID, you're going to see more decommits from Georgia. You're going to see more decommits from elsewhere. The kids that decommit from elsewhere are going to commit to Georgia, and vice versa. The ones that decommit from Georgia are going to go elsewhere. There are a lot of kids who are being released because they were given an offer and committed, but they weren't on campus. So the coaches think the kid is 6'3", 295 pounds. They find out he's 6'1", 350 pounds, and can't move. And they're like, oh, that's great. You might want to look somewhere else. And all of a sudden the kid decommits. After talking it over with my parents, I'm reopening my commitment, no interviews. Yeah, you were. You did decommit, and you did think it over. You thought it over for about 2 seconds when that school said, yeah, if you can come here, we'll honor your request, but you're going to have to come as a walk-on, and you're not going to play a whole lot. So a lot of these schools, when they're getting these kids in front of them for the first time, are extending offers because they're like, look, just going off your film, we didn't know if you could move like we thought, like we wanted you to, or like we needed you to. Here's an offer. We really, really want you. And so it's going to seem like Georgia and LSU and Florida and all these schools are getting in on these kids late. They may have 30 offers from other schools, but it's been a while before some of the major programs have offered them. And you're going to see some guys who've been committed for a long time all of a sudden decommitting. You're like, why the hell is that guy decommit? Now, that's not the case with Bear Alexander. He decommitted, but just trying to give you some thoughts on that. Let me get through some of the questions here. Martin Redondo says, does UGA have a top 5 running back room? And if so, what are the others in order? Yes, UGA has a top 5 running back room. And let's think about this. You have how many 5-star tailbacks do you have in there? Let's count them. Zamir White, number 1. James Cook, number 2. Kendall Milton, number 3. Kenny McIntosh, 4-star. He could have a DeAndre Swift type of year. Dejon Edwards, another 4-star kid. That is 3 5-star running backs in that room. A couple guys who could have been 5-star running backs were pretty close. Well, maybe Dejon. I don't know that Dejon was ever in that conversation, but Kenny Mack was up there pretty good. And actually, having seen how effective Kenny Mack is, especially what he could do in the NFL level, that is a guy who could move up there. So I hope that answers your question, Martin. Yes, Martin said a lot of people did warn that A&M would be in the mix. We told folks, that's one of the first questions we asked him when Bayer committed. We're like, hey, how committed are you? And what about Texas A&M? And he's like, I'm very committed, but, that's in-state school. And, I love him. I'm going to take my visits. So he's taking his visits. Barry Anderson, he will be back. Yeah. Again, how many times have you seen Kirby miss on a kid, not only in the process where a kid decommits and then recommits on signing day or right before signing day? There's been a ton of those. The kid goes to school somewhere else, Reed Gilbert, and then winds up back at Georgia, Demetrius Robertson, and you're like, hey, we didn't get that guy, but now you got that guy. So don't burn bridges. So I guess is my point there. Mitchell Fletcher, UGA is the number 1 running back room in the country. Yeah, it's very good. Alabama's got a pretty good one too. So, yeah, Martin, I'm going to say Arredondo. And I apologize if that's wrong, Martin, but he says, yeah, that's why Reed Gilbert and D-Rob came back. Correct. Who do you got in the college football playoff? Jacob Watson asks. I'm going to go Georgia. I'm going to go Clemson because I think they're going to win the ACC, and you can't keep the ACC champion out. I'm going to give Alabama in there because I just think even if they were to lose to Georgia in the SEC championship game, everybody will put them back in there. And I'm going to go Oklahoma. Wild card, North Carolina. Just no. There's no way you could have 2 ACC and 2 SEC teams there. It's got to be Oklahoma or Oregon. But, yeah, Oklahoma. Okay, so been drinking a little scotch. I apologize. Barry Anderson, Cook is going to have a huge year if they get him the ball. I'm not going to make Coach Don gives me grief about this all the time because I mentioned the fact that, I always talk about the guys who aren't getting the ball in lieu of the guys who are. And he points out, it's like, look, if you're not getting first downs and you're only running 50 plays a game instead of 70 plays a game, you're not going to be able to feed everybody. You've got to get first downs, extend drives. And as you extend those drives, you can throw to the tight ends more. Because remember, every time for a guy like me who's like, why aren't we throwing to the tight ends? And Coach John will say, well, which of those successful passes to a wide receiver do you want to take back and redo and throw to a tight end? I'm like, well, maybe one, So I never have a good answer for that. And it's the same, I've said my last year, my prediction was that James Cook would have a huge breakout year. He did not. He could have. But I think it's a situation where you got to give him the ball more. But at that point, if you're giving the ball more to him, then you're not giving it to Kendall Milton. You're not giving it to Kenny Mack. You're not giving it to Zamir White. You're not giving it to Kyrus Jackson. You're not giving it to Reed Gilbert. You're not throwing to Darnell Washington or Jermaine Burton or Marcus Roseby-Jackson. You see the issue there. So it gets spread around. So that is a tricky one. Who do you predict will take over the quarterback? John Carson says, who do you predict will take over the quarterback after JT Daniels leaves? John Carson, good question. I am of the thought, and I am in the very, 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 very tiny minority here of people who do not believe that JT Daniels leaves this year. I think he sticks around one more year after this one. I know a lot of people thought, okay, well, he's one and done. And he may be. Some of the projections that he's going to see are going to be quite high. But some of the NFL scouts I spoke to are not high on JT Daniels. They're not down on him. They know he's incredibly bright, but They saw some of his mobility issues last year, so they want to see better mobility this year. Let's say he does that. He shows them better mobility, shows he's got the ball skills, he's got the arm. It also may be a situation where they're like, let's see you develop a little bit more because you're not a big guy. And if you're going to be small, you better be damn elusive, which he's not. So I think it's going to be a situation where they want to see, they're like, yeah, you had that freshman year, you had the 4 games, then you had this season, good season, but you could probably stand to get another year of seasoning under your belt, especially considering we project you at this part in the draft. And another year, you might go up. Now, again, with some guys, you could come back another year and it wouldn't change your draft status whatsoever. It's like, yeah, you can come back. You might get better, but it's not like you're going to grow another 3 inches, or get 0.5 of a second faster in the 40 or something like that. So maybe he would not have anything else he could do in college. But my guess is who takes over after he leaves. Right now, I don't see Carson Beck doing it, although he had one hell of a spring. I was ready to write Carson Beck off because the stuff we were hearing last year was that this was I won't say a miss on Georgia's part, but he was not living up to what George was hoping he was going to. This spring, we heard, oh, no, he's turned it around. He looks fantastic. So Carson Beck would definitely be one of the guys. He's got the experience, but I think just from what Georgia will want to run, assuming Todd Monken is here the following year, and Todd Monken's going to have a lot of people come after him after this season ends. What I think they would want to do, I think Brock Vandegrift is your guy there because he can make the throws, but he's also tough as nails. And we had him at Athens Christian, my son's school, and I've told the story a couple times. I apologize for those of you who have heard it before, but I'll tell it again. And somebody, when they went to tackle this kid, had a arm, a foot, an elbow, knuckles, went under his face mask, busted his chin wide open. He goes to the sideline, rubs some dirt on it, puts a little tiny piece of tape on it, comes back out there and throws for another 3-4 touchdowns on us, just lights us up. So he's tough as nails, which if you go back, do you remember how Aaron Murray played the game, just getting lit up? To be go back to Connor at South Carolina. Sometimes these quarterbacks just get the hell knocked out of them. And if they stay in the game, their teams rally around them. But for a guy who could take off and run, you have that in Brock Vandegrift. And we know that Carson Beck can do that. And, Gunnar Stockton gets there. He can do it too. But right now I'm thinking from a pure athlete standpoint, who can also make the throws, when you look at who's left in that quarterback room. And hell, for all I know, Stetson Bennett will still be there for the next 10 years. But no, my pick is Brock Vandegrift. Throwing to the other Brock. So Brock to Brock should be big. Barry Anderson says the talent gap between Brock and Beck is huge. I would say that last year, but I don't know that that's true this year anyway. All right. My apologies, Mitchell. He tells me I am not factoring in the Heisman Trophy in a national championship. That's true, but the NFL could give a rat's ass about either. They do not care that you won a Heisman Trophy. That doesn't get you into the league. You won a national title, like great. You can. That answers the question if you can do it when the lights are on, but that doesn't. They are much more about measurables than about college hardware. They just don't care. It is brutal. All right. Some of the guys, if you would go under this and put in some comments or two. Apparently, if chat comments don't do as much as real comments under the box there for showing engagement. I'm still trying to learn how. Again, we're terrible at monetizing our ads and stuff, but I like to be able to monetize this stuff just so I can keep hiring more staff. We have some great new recruiting guys at UGAsports.com. Blaine Gilmer is a whirlwind. Jed May is a guy he grew up in Colbert. He's taken on the recruiting left and right. Ben Bachman is knocking it out of the park. So, Jed's got stories coming constantly. Ben's writing stories left and right. Gilmer is, like I said, he's just a monster. Those three guys are doing it, and I need to scrape up some cash to pay those guys because they deserve it. So, if you would put your comments underneath it, and subscribe to this channel if you would. Bo Rutledge, I just got here. So what are we talking about? We're talking about how guys named Bo are just terrible, absolutely terrible. It's like garbage. Just can't stand them. Bo. Who named their child Bo? Now, if it was Beauregard, now we're talking. So let's bust on him. Barry Anderson says, do you see Ringo starting September 4th? Yes, I do. And I'm not just trying to say, whatever. He is going to be on a long line of Georgia stars who've played 2 years. He came to Georgia last year, had the shoulder surgery, didn't play. He'll play this year. It'll be his freshman year. He's going to get burned, but he's also going to make some crazy plays. And then he's going to perfect it by his junior year, and then he's going to go pro. So you get the number one cornerback in the country, and you get him for 2 years. It's just a long litany of guys who either the Noshawn Morenas who were redshirted a year early or were injured or suspended or whatever happened, who you did not get 4 years out of, and you barely got 3. Geno Atkins, maybe. There's just a bunch of guys that only played at Georgia for 2 years, and I think Keely Ringo is going to be one of those. Yeah. Sorry, Bo Baker. Unless it's Beauregard, it doesn't count. I'm going to get all this hate mail from Bo's. The only good Bo was Bo Luke. I'm kidding. My name is Roddy. Do you know how well that goes over in 3rd grade? Radii. Is that short for Roderick? No, ma'am. No. Chuck Ward's on the ground. He wants to arm wrestle for a slice of key lime pie. If I was free, I would definitely whip his ass. There's no question out there. Mitchell saw Ringo out in Arizona twice. Said he's going to be good. He has so much speed. Yeah, this guy can fly. That is going to be disgusting. Barry Anderson says, is it going to be Ringo and Kendrick or Ringo and Speed? Right now, I think it's going to be Ringo and Kendrick, and that's not a shot against Amir Speed. I think he's a hell of a guy, but I'll put it to you this way. There's what Kirby Smart's looking for, and this was explained to me by Coach Donnan because, again, I'm just steal all his material and present it as my own, but I need to be honest with you folks right now. When you watch what Georgia does with its cornerbacks, it's very often those guys are on their own. They're not getting support from the safeties as much. So whoever could do man coverage, and I go back to the first West Virginia cornerback who went to the transfer portal. Georgia hires Jamil Adai, and they're like, Jamil Adai. And everyone's thinking, oh, well, he's got a All-American cornerback. That guy's going to absolutely transfer to Georgia, and Georgia's going to get him. And Georgia's like, no, we're not interested. Wait a minute. This guy's one of the top cornerbacks in the country, and you don't want him? And then he goes to Auburn, and people are like, what are you doing? We need cornerbacks. And the knock was he was great in zone, but he was not great man-to-man. And then the second West Virginia cornerback goes into the portal, Tyke Smith, and he comes to Georgia, and everyone's like, well, then he's better at man-to-man. He's not going to be that cornerback guy. He's coming in as a star with some experience as safety. So, again, that's because they just didn't play that type of defense at West Virginia. So you have to go find a guy who's great at man-to-man. Now, Amir Speed has learned that, and, I remember how excited Georgia fans were to get him. We were one of the few people that predicted he would. I think he had decommitted and came back, if I remember correctly, but Georgia got Amir Speed, and I've been kind of waiting for him to have that breakout season. It may be this year, but Kendrick is kind of a one and done. Kendrick could have gone to the pros this year, but he didn't. So he is coming in to play, and I think, Georgia is very high. And I've spoken to some people inside the program, and they were stunned that he didn't go pro. And then they thought, wow, and they were kind of salivating at the idea that he might one day jump into the portal because they knew that there were some issues there. And sure enough, he jumps in the portal, and they were, I think the minute the rumor came out, or the minute the minute the rumor came out, they looked up his number. The minute they saw his name in the portal, probably within 10 seconds, he had a text saying, hey, call us. So that is big. Barry Anderson says, I see Seen as our captain this year, a.k.a. LeCount. That's very true. And remember, the Safeties oftentimes are one of the team captains out there on the field who are showing things around. Your middle linebacker too, Kobe Dean is calling stuff out, and your safeties have to do that type of stuff. Got to get those guys in the right spots. So, yeah. Hey, Raj, it's good to hear you. Chuck Ward says Kendrick's back pedal is elite. Yes. Silent Chaos says, how do you see the wide receiver depth chart shaking out for the year with a Reek in the rotation? That's a great question, Silent Chaos, because Reek Gilbert's coming in as an athlete. He's coming in as a wide receiver. I basically think, and again, go back and when you watch those plays where George Pickens makes these outstanding catches, he never struck me as being this absolute burner. He got open, and he made catches that other guys couldn't. The offense completely changed when he was in there. You bring in a tight end, and tight end is going to be, well, he's not some speed demon. None of these guys are Devontae Smith, But I think that you can put Jermaine Burton out there and then, put Reek Gilbert on the field with Kearis Jackson in the slot. And you mix those guys. And it might not even be that traditional. It might be a situation where you have a Reek Gilbert in line. You're running a 12 personnel, 2 tight ends out there. You got Darnell Washington on one side and Reek Gilbert on the other. Your one wide receiver. And all of a sudden, a Reek is running a route. Now, granted, that happens a lot with tight ends, but he's running it faster than most tight ends, making huge catches. He had, 35 catches? I think that tied what Georgia's highest total last year. As a true freshman. So he's running routes like a receiver, but if need be, he can block too. So it's just that kind of deception that you can run with him. So from a depth chart standpoint right now, I think you got to pencil him in. Well, let's go Jermaine Burton, Kearis Jackson, Demetrius Robertson, or I think the battle you'll have right there will be Demetrius Robertson versus Reek Gilbert. He is not Kyle Pitts. Please stop saying that. No one is Kyle Pitts. No one has that kind of speed. And that's what made Kyle Pitts nuts, because he's out there as a tight end, but he does not run like one. So let's be honest there. Sorry, a lot of stuff here. Russell Duke, how's it going? He says, sorry to hear Jake Roos is leaving. I wish him well. I wish him well too. He will be back in this market very shortly. That is what it is. Chuck Ward, Lawrence Cager wasn't a burner either, but he made a dramatic difference when he wasn't hurt. Again, that's the thing. It's like you don't have to be the fastest guy out there if you can run good routes, get separation, and then make catches. Because a guy may be closer to you because you didn't burn him with your speed, that doesn't mean the ball can't be thrown where you can get your body between the ball and you block out, if you will, and make those tough catches. Make those acrobatic catches. Make the ones. Again, I don't think anybody looks at George Pickens and goes, man, that's the fastest guy on the field. You have Arian Smith for that. The guy ran a 10-second 100-meter dash. If you need speed, that's your guy. But I think Reek Gilbert has fast enough. He's fast enough. So he's going to burn some people. Let's see. What was the other news of the day? Brandon Turnage. We're talking about cornerbacks, and we're talking about the guys that might be out there. Georgia also was getting Brandon Turnage from Alabama. I know that we put on the dog vent. And again, if you want to join the dog vent, if you want to join UGAsports.com, we so believe that 2021 is going to be the year for the Bulldogs, a big year for the Bulldogs. That normally to get a membership to UGA Sports is $99.95. We believe so much that 2021 is going to be a special season. We're actually offering your first year, if you haven't been a member before, or if you've been a member and you let it, you canceled or you let it lapse or something like that, you can get a membership for $20.21, 80% off. The promo code is UGA 2021. If you can't remember that, then I can't help you. You probably had as much scotch as I have. But on the dog vent, we put up a note saying, we heard that Brandon Turnage arrived at Georgia, found out about the Darren Kendrick news. The Darren Kendrick from the cornerback of Clemson was transferring in, and not too long thereafter left Georgia. We said, from what we're hearing, it does not look like he's going to return. Now, he still could return. This is the voluntary period. He does not have to be on campus yet. So, and I saw that Mark Weiser over the Banner Herald had a story saying that he spoke to Brandon Turnage's head coach, and the head coach had spoken to Turnage a few days ago, and the kid said he just wasn't comfortable and that he had some stuff going on. As of this morning, and this is the type of stuff we report this first at UGAsports.com all the time. When you go to the dog event, you see what we're hearing. You need to click on that. So as of this morning, we heard other sources at UGA say, yes, the kid did leave. Brandon Turnage was not at Georgia. Now, again, he could come back, but we stand behind our reporting that he did leave. We put out the story yesterday, or put out the note on the dog vent, and then yesterday evening, Brandon Turnage tweeted out, "Chill out with the rumors." I don't know exactly what that means. He didn't say, yes, I'm at Georgia. He didn't say, I've left anywhere else. He did not answer he wanted everyone to cut down on the rumors, but he didn't set the facts straight, if you will. So, again, as of this morning, we were told that he is not at Georgia, or that he did leave Georgia, and that came from some very well-placed sources within the program. So I'm very quite confident in the fact that this is a guy who showed up and has left. And could he be back? Absolutely. But you notice that right after we put out that news, Georgia extended another offer to a Tulsa cornerback who's in the transfer portal. Why would they do that if they were at 85 spots? Why would they do that if Brandon Turnage was still on campus? Why would they do that if Brandon Turnage was on campus and everything was copacetic and happy and he's getting to know his new teammates? And I don't know that Georgia has extra spots. They could have offered the Tulsa cornerback much, much earlier. He's taking visits everywhere. So sounds to me like Georgia is putting in a plan B, plan C type situation if Turnage is absolutely gone and not coming back. And then they say, okay, well, we got a spot for you, Tulsa cornerback. Come on in. Barry Anderson says, do we finally see Nolan Smith have a breakout year? I think so. It's tough when you're playing behind Azeez Ojulari. That's tough. But, you got to think about it. I mean, how many spots do you have out there when you start looking at that defensive front? There's no way you're not going to have Big Jordan Davis in there. You got to have Jalen Carter out there, Devontae Wyatt. It's pretty good. Then maybe an Adam Anderson. You're only playing that kind of one pass rusher at a time. And for the longest time, it was Azeez Ojulari. So Nolan Smith, he went down to the practice squad to get more reps to work on his game. So this could be the breakout year. Danny Blackman says Don Blaylock is going to have a great year. Remember, this guy as a freshman was lights out. Then he tears his poor ACL twice. But Don Blaylock, I remember interviewing him at the Corky Kell Classic, the 7-on-7. This kid had yet to step foot in high school. He's out there just torching everybody. He's playing with his future high school teammates in the 7-on-7 in the summer, but he had yet to actually step foot into a high school classroom. But that's a guy who's playing up, and Dom is as technically sound as they get. So big fan of him. So, excuse me. I put in the title there that the Bulldogs lose a 5-star commit, but they have a new plan and more. The and more is, we're talking about Brandon Turnage, the other cornerbacks and wide receiver stuff like that. Quarterbacks. Any questions you guys have? Mitchell, Trayvon Walker needs to be out there as much as possible. There's not enough room to get all the good defensive linemen out there. So, I said in the title, they have a new plan, and it's not a new plan. This is the old bait switch we do with the clickbait type headlines. No, I just want to say that Georgia does have a new plan. We have new information. Travis Shaw, the 5-star defensive tackle out of Greensboro, North Carolina, our Deanna King spoke to him today, and he's coming down on the 18th and 19th. pretty sure he'll come down for the 5-star challenge, the Rivals 5-star challenge that we're having on the 17th. And then he will roll over on the 18th and 19th and go visit Georgia. So, again, North Carolina has been fantastic to the Georgia Bulldogs program. It's a little bit easier to pull a kid out of North Carolina than it is Texas. Think about it. When you're pulling a kid out of Texas, you got to get him past Texas A&M, past Texas, past those programs. Then you got to go past LSU. You got to go past Alabama, past Auburn to get him to Georgia. There's a lot coming there. Going to North Carolina, sometimes you're just pulling them past Clemson and South Carolina. Get them away from UNC, not that hard. Get them away from NC State, not that hard. Try to bypass Tennessee. Definitely possible in 85. So, point being, it is sometimes a little easier to take a kid out of North Carolina. Not as big a culture shock. It's easier for his parents to drive down and see him. So, Travis Shaw. Now, early on, Travis Shaw wasn't – a lot of people weren't really that high on Georgia's chances with him. But I'm telling you, I went up to see him. When Jalen Walker committed, I went to see his commitment and then drove up the next day to spend time with Travis Shaw. For me, and this is what, again, we put this behind the paywall on our message board. And when you get to UGAsports.com, when you sign up for the $20, you're going to see the dog vent, which is where we talk everything Georgia football and some other fun stuff. And then we discuss all the recruiting stuff on the vault. So there's 2 different message boards. Well, there's a bunch of different message boards, but the 2 big ones are the vent and the vault. So you go to the vault, and I put up there, I think that the Travis Shaw, he's a massive, massive human being. I think that commitment comes down to UNC and Georgia. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, God, give me Georgia. North Carolina, who the hell's that? He's a North Carolina guy. And Mac Brown has that program. We had Mac Brown on our TV show, on our podcast with Coach Adonin. Mac Brown has that program turned around. They are believing in it. And Mac Brown is a hell of a recruiter. And with the dearth of talent they had, they were winning games. And the kids and the people in that state are starting to believe in North Carolina football. John Lilly's up there. I know John can recruit too. Point being, you have a situation where it would not shock me. It wouldn't shock me if he picked North Carolina in the end, because there's just going to be so much pressure on him. But he loves Trey Scott, Georgia's defensive line coach. He loves, Kirby Smart. This is to me, this goes back to, oh my God, I'm trying to think of the guy in that went to LSU that was such a big target. He really liked Georgia, and he loved Trey Scott, but then wound up going to LSU. So anyway, it's a situation where that in-house, in-state pull is just so strong. You kind of want to go to these other teams, other places. Nice haircut. I don't have any hair. You can see yourself playing out of state, but you just know that your future, no matter what happens, you're probably going to be living in that state. So you play. It's the same thing Kirby uses to get in-state kids to stay home. So if you lose Bear Alexander, but you can keep Tyree West and you can get Travis Shaw, you can get some of these other guys that are in for that defensive end that we had, Danny Dennis Sutton. He has a big official visit weekend this past weekend. You had Danny Dennis Sutton, who's now the number 11 player in the nation, the number 5 guy. We had the story. He has Georgia on top now. Now he's going to go up there and talk to Penn State this coming weekend. That could change things. But when he left Georgia, Georgia did everything it possibly could, and everybody had been penciling this kid into going to Penn State. But he had such a good time in Georgia. He has them on top now. So that's thanks, Cameron Benson. I'll take that. Appreciate the super chat there. We always love those. Point being, Travis Shaw, I just don't think you can get Tyree West, Michael Williams, Bear Alexander, Travis Shaw, all those guys in one class. But I think you could get 3, 4, but you're not going to get all 5 stars. But to get Tyree West and Travis Shaw together, that would be – now you would finally start to – getting the Jordan Davis to come and do as well as he's done, and this is a guy who's going to be projected to go very high in the draft, that has opened up your chances of landing some of these other 5-star, 4-star, high 4-star defensive linemen, unlike Georgia's had in a long time. It's been forever since Georgia's had a defensive lineman who was drafted. It's been a long time. So, point being, getting a Jordan Davis into the league is very, very big for them. So, GATA 404 Dog says, has Travis Shaw a Clemson lean? Well, I'm sure they know what they're talking about. I'm just telling you what the people I've spoken to say that it's going to come down to a Georgia North Carolina battle. Now, could he be a Clemson lean? Absolutely. When you look at Clemson and you look at that defensive front, they are known for putting guys in the NFL from the defensive front. It's like, oh, hey, Miles Murphy. Hey, look, there's Brian Reese. Yeah. Just like if you are a top running back, if you're Branson Robinson, you're looking at what Georgia's done when it comes to running backs. You're like, I want to go there because they put running backs in the league. So if you're Travis Shaw, you're like, hey, I'm going to go to Clemson. I'm not, and Clemson's even closer than Georgia. So I am not discounting Clemson at all. I'm just thinking in the end, the people that I spoke to say they think it's going to come down to Georgia and North Carolina in that battle. So are you guys hearing that Bowie from Kirby's hometown of Bainbridge is considering Texas A&M too? Yeah, we're hearing that because he was out there and he's going back out there. So that could have a lot to do with it. But I can't imagine Bowie. I mean, he could decommit. It would not surprise me. He's still got plenty of time. But when you were from Bainbridge and Kirby Smart's head coach, then you tend to come here. But that's where Nick Williams was from. So yeah, Nick was, Nick's doing his thing. He's out there recruiting. So, but in a battle of recruiting prowess for a kid from their hometown, you have Nick Williams, a recruiting, senior recruiting analyst, contributor, personnel guy at Texas A&M versus the head coach at Georgia. And now here's the thing: when Nick Williams was, when Kirby found out that Nick Williams was even offered a job out there, his next step was to be on the phone or be in FaceTime or whatever was legally allowable on the phone with anybody that Nick Williams spoke to. It's like, hey, I'm going to talk to Bear Alexander. And I heard this story that Kirby was on the phone with one recruit, and he said, how many phone calls you've gotten today? And the kid's like, 7, 8. He goes, how many of them were the head coach? He goes, 1. He goes, who was? He goes, you. Kirby gets this stuff, man. He gets it. So I'm not going to – if you lose Bowie and you lose Bear Alexander – hey, thanks, Cameron. Appreciate that. If you lose any of those guys, it's not going to be because Nick Williams went to Texas A&M. It will help Texas A&M, but that's not it. Now, Jimbo Fisher's a hell of a recruiter too. So it kind of says Branson Robinson's a UGA lean and couldn't be happier about it. He's a big-time running back. Yeah, I mean, deadlift 700 pounds. And I've stolen his I was just texting with him. I told him I stole his deadlift method. He uses the sumo style where you got your legs spread when you're doing the sumo, the deadlift. My son stole that and added, I said 30 or 50. My son added a ton to his deadlift max because your legs are out. You don't have to go quite as far up, but it's just an easier lift than getting your knees in the way. And my son was like, Dad, I was able to do my old max 3 times before I maxed out. So not only were we trying to steal information from Branson Robinson so we know what to write in our stories about him, we're also stealing powerlifting tips from him. So now I have had someone within the football realm of scouting say, please, for the love of God, tell these kids to stop tweeting out these videos of them doing lifts. So many of them do the lifts poorly. They're doing these squats badly. They're doing deadlifts. They're doing power cleans just awful. And they're trying to impress coaches, with these heavy lifts, It's like there's no reason to lift that much weight. If you do it that badly, you're going to get injured and you won't play anywhere. So I have tried to curtail my retweeting and I don't say hyping of these kids tweeting out or who are sending out videos or Instagram videos of themselves doing crazy lifts or doing super heavy lifts because again, they can still do it and everybody wants to get stronger. My kid works out 3 times a day, but it's, he's doing it for wrestling. But there's no point in doing the, thanks, Cameron. This is the last one, I promise. No, it's okay. You can keep doing that. Like I said, we are trying to learn how to monetize this stuff. It's nuts. But Branson Robinson, just an absolute crazy power lifter. And I think if the coaches had their way, they'd be like, go ahead and commit and let's bring the weight down a little bit so you don't wind up hurting yourself. Because if you go back to Jordan Davis, remember he was, he missed a bunch of games his freshman year, hurt himself in the weight room. You got to be careful, and that's not just, Georgia has the best weight room equipment. Now they have the best weight room with this giant screen in there. It's like if you think about Jerry's World, they have that huge screen that runs almost a length of the field, and it's like, it's over the field, it's gigantic. Now they have something similar like that in Georgia's new weight room. This gigantic weight room with this huge video board that hangs down, and of course it has like all their lifts on it, has all their videos, can play anything, and the kids have just been blown away by this thing. But sometimes when you're doing ridiculously heavy weights, so hey, sometimes when you're doing minimum weights, if you do them poorly, you can get injured. So here on this show that we won't spread the videos of these kids doing it. We don't want to be against them, but we don't need to reward them going, hey, that's great. Can you do 415? I saw you do 385. Can you do another 30, 40 pounds? No, let's not try to do that. Is Walter Nolan a Florida lean? Dante Green? I do not know. I don't know where he's leaning, but I do know that Georgia's not out of it. He goes to Florida and comes out and says, look, I'm close to making a decision. That shocked a lot of people. But the word that we have is that Georgia is not out of this at all. And again, I don't care. Again, just like with Bear Alexander commits to Georgia, and we tell people it's not over. Texas A&M is still going to be in this. People. Let me tell you guys a real quick story. I was talking to one of the Georgia coaches years ago. You might remember him. His name's Rodney Garner. And is off the record conversation at the time, but I'm sure he won't care. And hell, I've already told the story before. He pointed it out as like this. When these kids are out there being recruited, everything's lovey-dovey. It's all lovey-dovey. We're all patting the kid on the back, telling him how much we want him, and everybody is being polite. There's no negative recruiting because everything is just, we're trying to be nice. Hey, we're a family here. Come join us. No, come join us. Oh, you should come join us. Hey, we'd love to have you. You'd be great here. You'd fit in fantastic with us. Then the kid commits. And his exact quotes were, then the gloves come off. Because before, you'd be negative recruiting against the entire field of offers the kid has. And you don't want to, if you're LSU and you start bad-mouthing Alabama to the kid's going to be like, what the hell? You're supposed to be telling me what's great about LSU and you're crapping on Alabama. I don't get that. But once a kid commits, now you know what you can talk about. So let's say you're a Bear Alexander and you go to Texas A&M and they go, man, Georgia hadn't had a defensive lineman. Hey, you're going to Georgia, that's great, but they haven't had a defensive lineman drafted since, Hercules. Back to the ancient Greeks, hell, the Etruscans is even further than the Greeks. Go back to the Neolithic period, but since they had a defensive lineman drafted, it's been a while. And they the gloves will come off. It gets ugly. So how to rip the team that the kid's committed to. You do your negative recruiting, your negative history. And again, you don't come out and just crap all over them. You just point out some things like, hey, I want what's best for you, but did you know? And that's the sort of thing that pops up there. So thanks, Cameron. Cameron Benson, the best guy on here today. I love it. Christian Miller. He is Georgia loves Christian Miller. They like Mykel Williams, and Tyree West apparently is supposed to be recruiting those guys. So that could get you if you get them and Big Travis Shaw, that is a scary grouping there. All right, let me see what else. Oh, I wanted to talk about some of the stuff on the dog vent here. Hey, go check out our interview with David Pollock. You know, a lot of Georgia fans are like, David Pollock, he craps on Georgia, and he's not a fan. He's an ESPN shill. You watch, he's on vacation, and he just happens to be on vacation with one of our staffers. Okay, Brent Rollins, who works for Pro Football Focus and UGAsports.com. They're buddies. They're on vacation together. Well, they're a baseball tournament down in Panama City. So they've basically been at the beach all day, and they came and sat down and did a podcast with Dan Young. It's like 23 minutes of just David Pollock talking about Georgia. And listen to the we and us, and the guy's still a damn good dog. So he still roots for his dog. Everyone knows just because he picks against Georgia, it's because he's being honest, and he thinks Georgia's going to win or lose, But when we believe Georgia's going to win, he'll pick them. And you can tell he is still a diehard dog through and through. Check it out. It's free. You got no reason not to do that. So check that out when you get a chance. Let's see. We were talking about the U.S. men's team versus Mexico. I can't believe we have that many threads about a soccer game on the board, but that was a hell of a game. I really appreciate that. Somebody asked us, hey, is Julian the last remaining player of Jim Donan's final recruiting class? Yeah, Julian Rochester's been around a long time, but again, that's that defensive front, that's another guy you have to put out there now that he's healthy. So let's say you have Trayvon Walker and Julian Rochester and Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, Adam Anderson. Well, where's Nolan Smith going to go? So be a lot of guys switched around there. Tailgating questions. Oh, we have the one-man acoustical jam. Guitar Dog got on there and played all your favorites. So if you need to hear some covers, Guitar Dog's got it. We talked about Saban being extended through 2028. I don't understand that. They should just go ahead and extend Saban through, just give him the lifetime contract, and just every time a new coach gets a contract that gets close to his, it should just kick in that he gets $1 million more than the highest paid coach. If I'm his agent, I'm like, look, that's what I want, because he's never going to retire. What's he going to do? I think the man's going to coach until he's 170 and keep winning. It's just, I just have a hard time seeing Nick Saban do anything but coach football. I just don't see him fishing or canoeing or bird watching or collecting stamps. I just don't see it. I could be completely wrong. I don't know him, but it's just the intensity and the attention to detail he has. I don't know how you ever turn that on. So, sorry, just looking at some of the other stuff. I thought Anthony Dasher had a great question there. He says, what is y'all's take on the idea that this is a must-win national championship, no excuse year for Coach Smart? And we've had 142 people weigh in on that one, so that's a pretty good one. So I'll turn the question around. I'll turn the question over to you guys. Is this and you see this from the lazy pundits all the time. This is the must-year win for Kirby Smart. He's had 3 number 1 classes. He had a Reed Gilbert transfer in. He got JT Daniels in. He got Darren Kendrick in there. He has to win it this year or it's over. So if he doesn't win it this year, all those guys leave. He's not going to continue to keep recruiting at this level. So what happens if, I don't know, let's say the 8th play of the game? Who can remember 8 plays into a certain season? I don't know. I'm going to go back a few years. Oh, yeah, 8 plays in a season. This 5-star quarterback named Jacob Eason goes down. Ooh. Point being, the crap can go sideways really, really fast. They say, oh, well, this next man up. Yeah. So when Dwan Mathis wasn't going to get done, you brought in Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett won you a bunch of games, but then he gets injured at Florida and he can't win it there. Oh, how many next men up do you have at some of those incredible positions? Got a lot of wide receivers, but if you lose, you had George Pickens out, then Marcus Roseby-Jackson and scoring a touchdown breaks his ankle. And now all of a sudden you're down to a bunch of freshman wide receivers. Don Blaylock's out for the season. I mean, yeah, you can have crap go sideways. And I'm not trying to soften the blow. I just don't like the idea that it's now or never. That's bullshit. Because to me, you have to be – what Kirby's done when it comes to recruiting and what he's done with that coaching staff is you build yourself up so that you can be in that perennial conversation. We have a team that's good enough to make it to the playoffs. Hey, we're in the playoffs. Okay, you make it to the playoffs and then you lose in the first round. You don't make it to the title game. Or, as Georgia did, you make it to the title game and you lose at the last second. What if he gets to the title game, loses by 4 points? That's as close as he's ever going to get. This man will have played for 2 titles in 6 years. It's stupid. It's a lazy talk. It basically tells you what they want to do. People have been building Kirby Smart up, building him up, and now what's the media want to do to get their clicks? Kirby Smart's overrated. Tear him down if he doesn't win it this year. And they want to say something like that so they know that if I plant that in the offseason, at the end of the season, I can write that column. Remember back in June when I told you it's a do-or-die year for Kirby Smart? Well, he made the playoffs but lost, in the semifinals, and I just don't think he'll ever get it done. Hot click, and then, of course, Kirby goes out and signs, the number 1 class again. And you get that thing, well, Kirby can't develop talent. And you look at all the 3 stars he's putting into the first and second round. And so just kind of drives me crazy. Mike says, any update on Darren Kendrick's off-the-field activities? From what I understand, he had that gun charge that was, from what I understand, has been dropped. He does need to do some work in the classroom. I think it's just a couple extra hours that he needs to take over the summer. Then he should be academically eligible to play for Georgia this year. So Barry Anderson says Kirby's done a phenomenal job. I agree. Again, I'm not going to come out here and try to sound like a Kirby Smart fanboy because he does some things that bug me. I'm in the media. Kirby's not media friendly at times. So like these camps are going on. We used to be able to go to the camps. And he got mad at some of the not at anybody at UGA Sports. He actually walked up to me and said, if any of these blanks are, if you guys aren't allowed into our camps anymore, it's going to be because of these blanks over here. And he pointed to some of our competitors who were talking to players when they should not have been doing so. And sure enough, we were not allowed to go back. So it was a group punishment in that now you're not allowed to have, or they won't let recruiting writers cover the camps because certain recruiting writers did something stupid. I don't appreciate that. So again, I'm not here to defend Kirby. I'm not here to deride Kirby. That's what national media folks do because so much of your punditry class are successful based on clicks. When you click on those headlines, you are paying them. So when you click on stupid ass headlines, you're paying stupid ass people. That's why at UGA Sports, we work on subscriptions. We don't have to write clickbait headlines. We don't have to do this stuff to get you to click on it. We already got your money. Make sense? We're just now, it renews every year or it renews every month. So we have to give you fantastic coverage. We have to give you scoop so that it's worth it. Every day we've got like 175 people look at their credit card bill and go, $99. Is that really worth it? And then I have to, the way I look at it is every day I have to be worth that $99 or that $9.95 if you're a monthly subscriber. Did I give you $99 worth of information today? Now, granted, that works out at 27 cents a day, but you only decided that one day. So point being, we don't write those clickbait headlines. And I don't defend Kirby Smart. I don't attack Kirby Smart. I try to be as honest as I can. And when you say that I think Kirby Smart has done a fantastic job, objectively, when you look at that football team out there, when it comes to roster management, it's lights out. When you look at SEC East titles, lights out. SEC titles, yes. Made the playoffs. Georgia's never been in the playoffs before. Made that beating Alabama through most of the national championship game. objectively, he's done a phenomenal job. So let's be honest and not try to let's not lie about it. Yeah, Mike Mitchell Fletcher says the Kirby doesn't coach up talent is the most tired and lazy take in college football. Absolutely, but again, you have some guys who come out, they're ranked as 5 stars by us, and if they don't get to the league, then Kirby failed. Well, maybe we were wrong in our assessment, or maybe the kid wasn't as good as everybody thought. But for each 5-star that doesn't go in the first round, there's a 3 or 4-star that does. Does he not get credit for the Eric Stokeses of the world? I don't know. Yes, I'm going to tell Dasher stop hating on the kids or hating on the dogs. No. Tristram West says, TIKS, trust in Kirby Smart. I do trust him. I mean, I'll put it this way. I trust his talent evaluation more so than I did Mark Rick's. And don't get me wrong, like Mark Rick, great guy. But we're doing those revisionist history pieces where we go in and take the 2012 signing class and we say, okay, by the Rivals rankings, here's number 1, here's number 2, here's number 3, here's number 4, all the way out to 19, 25, 33, however many it was. And then we re-rank them based on their careers at UGA. Not what they did in the NFL, but here's the guys that started. Here's the guys that were all SEC. Here's the guys that were all American. Here's the guys that had, sacks or, block, how many starts they had. And there were some guys that were takes, there were commits, there were signees in the Mark Richt era that I don't think Kirby Smart and those guys would have sniffed. So I'm just saying this team looks completely different. I don't remember having that many 5-star and 4-star offensive linemen. I don't remember having that many tailbacks, that many wide receivers, that many tight ends. I mean, think about the tight end room where you got Brock Bowers and, John Fitzpatrick and Darnell Washington. Now you got Reed Gilbert, who's technically coming in as an athlete. He's a wide receiver, but I think that gives them the number 1 and number 2 tight ends from a year ago. And Darnell and Arik. So, I mean, just your tight ends are lights out. Your linebacking core is solid as it gets. I tell people this all the time. We used to go to the Corky Hill Classic because you had all these guys within the state of Georgia who were playing and competing. We'd go to the Corky Hill Classic and get 17 interviews. Now, a lot of times we're not even going because there's only 1 or 2 guys that Georgia's recruiting because they're out of state. So right now, if I needed to go talk to people, I need to fly up to Maryland to talk to Danny Dennis Sutton, although we did just have a story on the front page where he's talking about Georgia's on top for him now. I need to go out to Houston to see Bear Alexander. I need to go to Jackson, Mississippi to see Branson Robinson. I need to go down to Miami to see Shamar Stewart. Kirby recruits nationwide. You can have we used to cover the Rising Seniors game, and we still do. We still go down there and talk to the kids and tell them how to deal with the media and stuff like that. And we'll cover the game, but it's not – we used to send 4 or 5 guys to cover it because there were so many guys. The Nick Chubbs of the world were there. And they still get a lot of great players, but Georgia just they sign so many guys, the best players in state, they get them early. So it's pretty – when it comes to roster management, talent evaluation, I trust him. When it comes to in-game adjustments, I trust the staff he's built. And he's had some guys do it. Now he's had some misses. I think a lot of people are not excited about James Coley, but I believe Todd Monk has got the stuff figured out. Good question from Mirage. Says, Roddy, who was the one kid you covered over the years that you wanted to see succeed more than the others, and why? That is a great question. If I'd had less scotch, I could probably answer it. Let me give you one guy that I really wanted to see succeed, and that's Rashad Roundtree. We had him as a 5-star coming out of Evans, and out of Augusta. And the kid I think it was just too many concussions or something, but just absolutely a great kid. And I just felt awful for him that, he just couldn't stay healthy, and just broke my heart, because just he was always he'd go out of his way to come up to me and see me and talk to me, and you just when anybody has a medical issue like that, if a kid's not good, it's not his fault. But when a kid gets injured, it's 10 times worse. It's like, this is not his fault. If a kid's not good, it's like, well, maybe you could have done a little bit more, which is not fair, because these kids are busting their tails all the time. But you're like, maybe you're hampered by size or God-given talent or something like that. But maybe you could have, you go back to the David Andrews of the world, and you're like, God didn't give you size, he didn't give you speed, he didn't give you strength, but you worked yourself into the starting center for the New England Patriots. You have those stories, so you think any of these kids can do it. But when you see a guy just get injured, you're like, man, that's just heartbreaking. So it's probably, Raj, it's going to be the guys that got injured more so than anybody else. And you have your friends and guys you like, guys that impressed you. I mean, some of my favorite recruits of all time are like Rashaan Evans, Alvin Kamara, Deshaun Watson, guys that didn't go to Georgia, but you just get to be friends with Mike Davis, just absolutely love those guys. Super pet peeve. Damn, I cannot believe I can't remember. I can see his face. Chester Brown. The guy, I'm working at ESPN. The guy lets me know he's committed to Georgia. We break the news, and he gets a tattoo on his wrist of the day he either committed or the day he was offered by UGA. Guy wanted to be a dog so bad. Chester Alofa Brown, I believe, is his name. And he's coaching now. He's coaching up some kids, and I stay in touch with him on Facebook. Then come to find out he can't play in Georgia because he's from Guam, but not America Guam. So there's like Guam, and then there's the American part of it. So there's like two parts. He's from the other part, and so therefore he's. There was some bill in the state legislature which kept him from being able to play, and I think he went to UCF. But another just great kid. So anyway, Darnell was the number one athlete. Okay. Donta Green says, how long will we have Monken through the playoffs, you hope? Kirby is making elite recruiters. Now he has to recruit against them. That's a great point, Donta Green. Absolutely. He is. And he's teaching people how to do it. It's like, come in, work for this, now Mel Tucker knows how to recruit that way. And we've had guys who said, look, I've recruited all over the country, but I've never recruited like I did when I worked for Kirby Smart, So now you have guys, and let's say you're James Coley and you go on to Texas A&M, you have all those connections in Miami, but you also know how Georgia recruits. So yeah, you got to, James Coley on his own is a great recruiter. That's why Jimbo Fisher's been after him for years until he finally got him. But he's also knows your system, so that is tough. Yeah, the old Teddy Bridgewater video where he said if UG'd offer, he'd commit. Yeah, there's some guys like that. All right, folks, I'm going to pack it in. My glass is empty. So I appreciate you joining us. We will not be having a UGA Sports Live podcast tomorrow with Coach Donnan. We've had some issues with scheduling that popped up. I know we had to cancel last week, but last week it was June 1st, and that's when we had the Reed Gilbert news. We knew that was coming. We knew the Darren Kendrick news was coming. We knew all those freshmen were showing up on campus. We knew it was going to be a crazy day. It was a huge camp. So we said, look, we can't do the show on Tuesday. So we'll have a huge show the following Tuesday. It's the following Tuesday, but we've had some guys between Dane, myself, and Coach Don, and we have some issues when it comes to scheduling. So we won't be able to have the UGA Sports Live show, but going to try to do more of these where we just basically get on and just talk about the news of the day and talk about some of the stuff on the dogvent.com. And thanks everybody for all the questions. And Cameron, thank you very much. That is that's very much appreciated. So, all right, everybody, y'all take care.